Well, today we are going to be looking at how much money XRP could actually make from their payment fees. Then we're going to be comparing it to how much money Swift actually makes from their payment fees. And that can give us a realistic estimate of how much money XRP could possibly make from their payment fees. Crypto YouTubers have made the outrageous claim that XRP is going to go up to $100, making it a $10 trillion coin. Why do they think it's going to happen? Well, it's probably because they don't really know math that well, or they don't really understand a market cap. But the main reason is because Swift does $4 to $5 trillion in transfers every day. And they believe that if Ripple can just get a fraction of that traffic, then Ripple would be a $1 trillion company. Well, today we are going to be looking at how much money XRP could actually make from their payment fees. Then we're going to be comparing it to how much money Swift actually makes from their payment fees. And that can give us a realistic estimate of how much money XRP could possibly make from their payment fees. So with that, let's go. So let's start with the basics of how the Swift payment system works, because it's pretty much the exact same thing as how Ripple works, except Ripple is a lot cheaper. And if you don't know what Swift is the world's largest messaging network, and that allows banks to safely and securely transfer money from one bank to another. And they do this in two ways. The first way is if the sender bank and the receiver bank has a commercial relationship. If they do have a commercial relationship, then the processing is free of charge. If they don't have a commercial relationship, then an intermediary bank is necessary, and that is where the fee starts. The more intermediary banks that are used, the higher the fees. So let's say that you want to send some money to your relatives in England, because the British pound has really gone to mainly because they went from one bad prime minister to another bad prime minister. So if you want to send $100 to England, you would have to pay around 1 to 2% in fees, which would account to $1 to $2. Of that $2 in processing fees, Swift would get around 20 cents. The other $1.80 would go to the banks and the foreign currency exchange. That is how Swift works in a very simplified version. That is also how Ripple works in a nutshell, except Ripple is a lot cheaper. So to calculate how much money Ripple would make from their payment fees is actually pretty easy. You take the number of transactions that Ripple would process, multiply by how much XRP it costs per transaction, and then you multiply by the price of XRP. So let's say that XRP processes the same amount of transactions as Swift does, which is 42 million transactions per day. 42 million transactions per day and times the cost of XRP per transactions, which is 0.000001 XRP, or 1/1,000,000th of an XRP. You take that and then you multiply it by the price of XRP, which currently is around 45 cents, but let's round it to 50 cents. If you multiply all of that together, it would give you a crazy amount of $21 per day. If you multiply that by 365 days a year, you would get $7,665 in payment fees per year. Yeah, $7,665. Now, just to be fair, that is the cheapest amount of XRP and that is necessary to send the transactions, okay? And realistically, I've never seen that price. So let's say that it was just a lot more expensive, like 10 times as expensive. If it was 10 times as expensive, that means every year XRP would make $76,650 a year in payment fees. If every transaction was 100 times more expensive, then they would make $766,000 a year in revenue just for their payment fees. If every transaction was 1,000 times more expensive, then they would make $7.66 million in payment fees every year. Now, if it was 10,000 times as expensive, then every year they would make $76 million in payment fees. And if every transaction was 100,000 times as expensive, then they would make $766 million in payment fees. Obviously, if a company was making $766 million a year, they would be a billion-dollar company. They might even be a $10 billion company. But honestly, at that price, I wouldn't say that they are a $100 billion company, much less a $1 trillion company. Apple is currently worth $2.3 trillion, and in the year 2021, they made $365 billion in revenue. That means that their total market cap is only 6.3 times their total revenue. So if XRP charges 100,000 times their lowest price at a price of 0.1 XRP per transaction, they would only make $766 million a year, which is a lot, but it's not a $100 billion company. And that is assuming that they have as much transactions as a SWIFT payment system, which they obviously don't. Now, and there is something that I need to complain about, and that is I honestly don't know what XRP charges for their transactions. All the things that I've told you is just something that I found on their XRP website, and that is what I've seen on their ledger. However, what I do have is how much money SWIFT makes from their payment system. And in 2021, SWIFT's total revenue for their payment system is 894 million euros. Now, just to be clear, and that is revenue. Their net profit was $52 million, which if you convert it to USD, it comes out to $51 million in USD. And this is the world's largest payment processing system with over 42 million transactions per day. They only get a revenue of around 900 million euros. So with that revenue, I would estimate that SWIFT is worth around $10 billion or less. Now, if SWIFT is worth $10 billion, how much is Ripple worth since it has less transactions and it is a cheaper version, because that is how they market themselves, a cheaper version of SWIFT. So now some of you guys might be thinking, oh, I'm full of BS because XRP is already worth over $20 billion. And yeah, it is worth over $20 billion. But that doesn't mean that that valuation comes from the payment processing fees. That valuation is because of a very good marketing and a lot of people FOMOing into the coin because of the SEC lawsuit. But based on my calculations, even if Ripple wins the SEC lawsuit, even if Ripple becomes bigger than SWIFT, the money that they make from their payment processing fees is almost nothing. Chances are it'll be less than $100 million in revenue per year. Now, I will admit that they have other things going on for them, like their lending program, their coin, and their other projects, or whatever, okay? Whatever. But I just want to set the record straight and that if people are thinking that XRP is going to be $1 trillion company because of these payment fees, that is incorrect, okay? SWIFT is the biggest payment processing company in the world, and they are worth less than $10 billion. Why would Ripple be $1 trillion company if it is supposed to be a cheaper version of SWIFT? Alright guys, well, and that's all that I have for you guys today. If you guys like the anti-hype style versions of these videos, subscribe and I'll make more of it. Thank you very much, and see you guys next time. Bye.